Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Military Mondays. For those of you who do not know who I am Brenda Sanchez. I am a retired Air Force major, and my husband and I are the co-owners of the company Life's Real Currency, and we help people build relationships in their business so that they retain those precious clients. And every single Monday morning, I bring you Military Mondays. I bring you interviews. I interview some really cool people, and I have a pretty cool person on this morning. Um, and bring to you how they're helping, either serving the military community, or if they are a veteran themselves, I like to highlight them so that people get to know our veteran business owners. And so every single Monday morning at 8 a.m., that's 8 a.m. Mountain Time, we do these. And today I have the honor of having Kate Paine on. Kate and I met each other last July in Dallas, and she stood up. Actually, we were at an eWomen event, and Sandra Yancey had her stand up, and she told about how she helps transitioning veterans. And I'm like, oh, I need to know that lady. And we met and we chatted for just a few minutes. And then it's been almost a year went by. And last month, she came to our eWomen chapter because, of course, right now, everybody's doing everything virtually. And she came last month, and then she was our speaker this month. And we got to spend a little bit of time chatting afterwards, and I really got to know her, and I was like, oh, I need to bring her on and share her with the world, and my military community, because she has a unique story, and that she herself didn't serve, but I'm not going to tell anymore. I'm going to let her tell you her story because she's much better at it than I am. So without further ado, thank you so much, Kate, for being on. She is the founder and CEO of Standing Out Online, which you see right behind her. That's her brand, and she's really amazing. So thank you, Kate, for being on this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's actually a real honor to be on Memorial Day.
Yes. Oh, and before we go any further, I meant to do that at the beginning. Since it is Memorial Day, I do want to take a moment to thank everybody who has given the true sacrifice. They've given their lives for the freedom of our country, because it's the ultimate sacrifice. And there are many, many, many thousands, millions of people who have given their lives for our country. And so I just want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you. And if you are watching and you are the survivor, of somebody who has lost their life in our military for our freedom, thank you for your service also. Sorry, I forgot to do that at the
No,
beginning,
that's
Kate.
fine. And I echo that appreciation as well.
So
So
tell us a little bit about you and how you started to work with veterans, because it's kind of a unique story. And if I remember correctly, you're also the daughter of a veteran.
yes,
Is that right?
my father served in the Korean War. He was in the army. My uncle, his brother, was actually a prisoner of war in the Battle of the Bulge in World
Wow.
War II. He was 6'8", and back then they only made uniforms for people up to 6'5", and so he did everything he could to get past the medical stuff to get in. And so anyway, you can imagine somebody who's 6'8", weighed a lot. When he came back, they had no word about him for about 6 months, my grandparents. When he came back, he weighed about 125 pounds, but he
Wow.
survived, and he lived a full life. And then my partner, my Bill Atkinson, was a 22-year career Navy SEAL. He retired in 98. And then out of the blue, about 4 years ago, I got a message from LinkedIn. And of course, that's what I do, is I help veterans learn how to use LinkedIn. So if they're getting out of retirement, if they're retiring or they're getting out of their military service, then I'm teaching them how to use LinkedIn so that they can find their next gig, or if they're going to even do their own business. And so I got an email from a gentleman from a nonprofit in Coronado called the Honor Foundation, which was founded about 5 years ago. And they were looking for a volunteer faculty member to teach LinkedIn to their Honor Foundation fellows, is what they call them. And so, long story short, I've been the LinkedIn instructor for the campus that they have on the East Coast for Virginia Beach and for the Marines in Surf City in North Carolina. And I've been doing that for about almost 5 years now, 4.5.
Wow. And you said they didn't even know that your partner was a Navy SEAL, and the foundation was founded to help Navy SEALs, right? First and
Exactly. I did
foremost.
leave that out, didn't I? I didn't mean to.
Yes.
I
No,
was
that's
trying
all
to be
right.
succinct. So yes, that's kind of funny because when they found me, they literally did a LinkedIn search for like LinkedIn faculty or LinkedIn teacher or LinkedIn profile coach or whatever. So they found me through keywords, not having any idea that I was in a relationship with a Navy SEAL. So that was kind of funny. So a lot of people, when they hear me talk about this, they assume that I got this gig for the Honor Foundation because of Bill being a SEAL, whereas he had absolutely nothing to do with it. But what's really cool about that too is that some almost in every single class, somebody knows Bill or knew somebody who knows Bill, or somebody has served with Bill even when he was retiring. And you just realize what an incredibly small, close-knit community it is. And so that's always fun.
Yes. So share with the viewers, because you and I have had a conversation prior to this, and I talk about this just about every single Monday morning about the skills that the military bring to corporate or entrepreneurship that they don't even realize they have. And you speak to that really well about the superpowers, the soft skills, and the hard skills that you learn in the military. So, can you talk about that from your point of view? What, especially as, I mean, yes, you were a dependent and you do have a partner that served, but from the outside looking in as a civilian, please share, because many people don't,
Right.
they just don't even understand what they bring to the table
It's one of
themselves.
the very hardest things that any person in the military who's transitioning has, is to how do I make what I do translatable, transferable, putting it into sort of layman's terms or civilian terms to make it go, oh, so if you knew this, then you could do this job. Because, and this is what I find what people do in LinkedIn, and I'm not saying this to be critical, is that when you're doing like your LinkedIn profile or even your resume, you're using military speak. You can't help it because that's what you've come from. So like, one thing just right off the top is like, if you're going to use acronyms, make sure you spell them out. Provide context when you're writing about something so that, you've got to imagine who's on the other end reading this, because they don't necessarily have a military background. So you brought up hard skills and soft skills. So hard skills are like, if you were in a leadership role, whether you were enlisted or an officer, then you have, like, if you Google leadership, you have all the skills that follow under leadership. It's a matter of bringing people together. It's making them productive. It's making them be trustworthy. It's creating a team. So all of those things. So those translate into, civilian terms, as in teamwork, productivity, soft skills. So a lot of times, whether you're a veteran or not, and people are seeking employment, we never talk about our soft skills. Soft skills, something like problem solving, that's a soft, loyalty, all of those kinds of things really matter. And if you talk them up, then your competition might not be, because they're not so sure they should. Because of what I do and being so helpful with people in the job world, but also just from using it from a business standpoint, like especially using LinkedIn again, is that, you can do a Google search for like the skills, the words, like the actual words. Take some time. It doesn't have to take you long. You don't have to go down, a rabbit hole to do it. But take some time and think about, like, how would you label some of those skills that have a military term, but are translatable into like a real hard skill or soft skill. And Google could really help you come up with some of those. And it makes all the difference, because if you can talk about what you do in that language, not only are you going to appeal to a prospect for a customer, or to a recruiter or a hiring manager.
Awesome. And so you teach down at the course in Coronado twice a year? Is that?
So so they've got a faculty on the West Coast and they've got a faculty on the East Coast. I'm the East Coast volunteer faculty. So I teach in Virginia Beach at Little Creek. And then I also teach at a community college up near Camp Lejeune for the Marines. And what the Honor Foundation does is you don't necessarily have to have been like a Navy SEAL or an EOD or, air rescue or whatever. If you have worked with the Special Operations Forces as a support personnel, then you are also eligible to take the Honor Foundation course. They call their students fellows. It's not a gender thing. So whether you're a male or female, they're called fellows, like students are, who are part of a bigger, different type of graduate program or something. They call them fellows as well. And it's a 3-phase transition course, and it has grown by leaps and bounds. So I encourage people to just look up the Honor Foundation. The website is honor.org, and learn about it and see if you might be, eligible to participate, or somebody might be eligible to participate.
Awesome. And so I know that you did a video
Mhm.
on the military and transitioning and LinkedIn. And if I remember correctly, there were 5 things that you teach. And so maybe you could share just a little bit. I don't want to give them too much because I want them to reach out to you and learn more. But what are those, real quickly, those 5 things that you teach? We've talked a little bit about it, but
Mhm.
the 5 things you teach veterans that are transitioning out, and why LinkedIn? Because I know you talk about there's lots of platforms out there. Why LinkedIn is where you need to be as a transitioning veteran?
So I'll answer that question first. So why LinkedIn is because LinkedIn is the world's professional online networking platform. Whether you like it or not, that's where people do go for job search. That's where people can really showcase their personal brand. And if you've never heard that term, or if you have and you've never really understood what it means, your personal brand equals your reputation. Your reputation is made up of your integrity and your values and your professional superpower, like your professional expertise. So the best place online for you to showcase that is LinkedIn. It's the only one. You're not going to like do job search and position yourself 100% like on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. Like LinkedIn is the place for that. And if you are in the middle of job seeking, or if you're a business owner and you're trying to find your client, they're all on LinkedIn. And so, you need to figure out a way that you can use the channel that works for you. So that's why LinkedIn, they're at almost 700 million users around the world. And they're growing by leaps and bounds. Just one little tidbit a lot of people don't realize is that Microsoft bought LinkedIn 3 years ago.
Oh, I
And
didn't
so,
know that.
yes, so a lot of the newer functionality and the reason why people are using it now in such a robust way is because because Microsoft has brought so many features to the platform that never existed before. And they're incorporating it into a lot of their tools like Outlook and things like that. So if you're not there, you're missing an opportunity because all of your competition is there. So that's why LinkedIn. As far as the 5 things, you've tripped me up on that one, Brenda, because I can't remember the exact 5 in that one video because I do so many different ones and I figure out different highlights. But I can think of the top for our chat that are probably some of the 5 for some tips for LinkedIn, if that's okay.
That's fine. And then
Okay.
what we can do is I can share the link to
Yes.
your video or you can share the link to your video in the comments
Yes.
along with Honor Foundation and some other ways to reach you.
Yes. So that video that's on the eWomen Network Foundation page, it's under their Gifted Wisdom program. I did a 25-minute video on how veterans can use LinkedIn. So it's also on my website. The same link is on my website at standingoutonline.com. So the number one thing is make sure your professional headshot is, or a professional looking headshot is on your profile. So what a lot of times people will do, especially if they've been in the military, is they put up their photo of them in their military uniform. Now, that's not a bad thing, but if you're transitioning and you want recruiters to find you and think of you in that corporate environment and that civilian role, then it behooves you to look the part. No matter what job you're going for, anybody, make sure you sort of look the part. If you're a banker, you should be in a jacket and tie. If you are, own a hair salon, then, make sure your hair looks good and you can be business casual. So, again, make sure you look the part for the role that you're seeking. So make sure you're like looking in the camera. You want something well lit, not just something taken with your iPhone. Really, if you can have the means to afford a good profile headshot, I would suggest you do it. So that's one thing. The second thing is that a lot of people don't realize on LinkedIn that the way to be discovered by a recruiter, like for someone who's looking for someone like you, but they don't know your name, is you need to pay attention to the keywords. So I go back to like the names of the skills. Whatever skills you list in your LinkedIn profile are also keywords. So LinkedIn's backend algorithm crawls your profile. So if somebody goes, like a recruiter goes into Google or they go into LinkedIn search and they start typing, they don't usually search by job title. They don't do like vice president of communications. They're looking for people who have like a specialty. So the kind of keywords they're putting in there would be like, communications manager or something like that, where it's really kind of going a little bit deeper. They're not going to just type in communications because they'd get millions of results. So, you got to kind of think a little bit more specifically and less generically, because if you sprinkle some of those words in the content that you use in your LinkedIn profile, for example, the about section, if you write you have up to 2,600 characters there, it's about 500 words. Use that real estate. It's the most read section of your profile. And make sure you're sprinkling some of the words like industry keywords that relate to the job that you're seeking or what you would like to do. And if you're using those keywords, then that's called optimizing your LinkedIn profile. So it's very important to optimize your LinkedIn profile. If you're familiar with LinkedIn, Brenda, I'm sure you know this, is that when you go into your profile, there's your name, yep, and then there's your headline. It's called the headline. And that's where a lot of people default to just putting their job title. That's no longer a best practice. What you want to do is sprinkle some of those specific keywords into that headline. And what you do is like for me, I have LinkedIn profile coach. And then I have like a vertical bar, like the pipe symbol. And then I have another keyword and then a pipe symbol, and you have up to 120 characters. So if you're using at least like 2 keywords for what it is that you do in your headline, you're making yourself much more likely to show up in search results. So I could do a whole workshop on that.
I know. We could talk for hours on this.
Yes, but it's very important to optimize your profile. So, so 1 is the photo, 2 optimizing. Make sure number 3 is that you actually have an about section. A lot of people never know what to do there and they get afraid of it. So they just don't do it. And then there's nothing. And that will make a recruiter leave your profile if you don't even have an about section. So,
so the moral of the story is if you don't want to be recruited, just don't go fill that section out.
Yeah, there you go. And if you don't want to be found for people to hire you, then don't fill it out.
Don't be on LinkedIn.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The other piece is the volunteer section. Now, a lot of people would say, why the volunteer section? Well, I read about LinkedIn and algorithm and all kinds of things all the time. And, no social platform ever gives away their algorithm, right? But you can learn certain things. And I belong to groups where people are really good with data analysis and do stuff that I don't even know how to do. But the volunteer section is one of the most weighted sections by LinkedIn's algorithm. And I always, when I present out loud and in person, I'll ask people, why do you think the volunteer section is so important to a profile? So I'll ask you that, Brenda, and see what your answer is. Why do you think that LinkedIn places so much value on the volunteer section?
Probably because it's your community outreach, what you do for others that you're not getting paid for. So are you reaching out and giving to the community without getting paid. And that's generally what you're passionate about and what you're good at. And so, and you didn't ask me ahead of
No, I
time.
was
So
going to say you nailed it, and we did
is
not prepare this in advance. And I'll add something to that too. Is when you picture a recruiter getting hundreds and hundreds of resumes and CVs every day, and they get this paper thing or they look at it on an email or whatever, and then when they go to LinkedIn, I have recruiters tell me this sort of anecdotally. They're like, I pray that when I get to their LinkedIn, I'm going to learn something more about them than just the stuff on the resume. You still need the resume because it's a tool that's still required, but they want to learn more about you as a whole person. So that's enough. So what you said about the volunteer section is spot on. It shows a little bit about who you are shows more about you as of who you are as a person, what's important to you. And I also say it's a way of you kind of telling your story about who you are as a whole person, and you don't really have to write a word. So like if you are, been slinging a hammer for Habitat for Humanity, put that in there. Even if you don't do hands-on volunteer work, because sometimes when I'm working, especially with military, they don't have time. They're on base. They don't have time to be in a physical place to do roll your sleeves up kind of volunteer work, right? But if you're a supporter of a cause that's not political, okay, so like if you're a supporter of like the Sierra Club, put in there annual donor. You don't need to put in how much, but put in there, and then in the description section, give your reason for giving. Like, why is that important to you? Maybe you love to hike. Maybe you're a birder. Adding in some of these things that are about your personality make your LinkedIn profile that much more interesting, because what it ends up doing is it creates top of mind awareness in the mind of the person that's looking at you. And if you captivate their attention, that could raise you up more than just what's on your resume. So take advantage of some of those things that you can do on your LinkedIn profile to really make you stand out, to show the whole person, not just your job title, not just your military background. You're so much more than that.
Well, and one of the things you talked about in that video is your story. And I've heard this in my field of work in the generic events. They say all the time, stories sell. Stories sell. Oh, now
data tells stories. Data
tells.
Data tells.
Yes, data tells. Stories sell. Yes. Yeah. I'm like, the facts tell. The facts tell. Stories sell, because they want to learn more about you. And you talked about in that video, and people can go watch it because we'll post it. But you talked about why, like maybe why you joined the military, or why you are passionate about whatever it is you plan to do outside the military, and bringing that into your about section. I believe it was the about
section. Yep.
You were
so I have what I call it my 3-part recipe for the about section. Okay. Or 3 elements, whatever you want the word to be. And so the first element is hook your reader in with a nugget of your personal story. And I'll get into that in just a second. Then segue into the second part of the recipe, which is what's the pain point you solve? Like, what's the problem that somebody might be hiring you to fix? Like, name the problem. Like, if you need, I always use do you remember the old commercial, the old TV commercial, and it would start out, do you have trouble sleeping at night? If you're watching, you're like, well, here's the pillow that will help you sleep better, or here's the pill that will help you sleep better, or here's the meditation that will help you sleep better. So you want to identify the pain point. And then the third part is, how do you use one of your superpowers to solve the problem? So that after somebody's read your about section, they have an idea of who you are, what you do, and how you can help them, versus just 500 words of all about you. I do this and I did that, and I was in the military, and I was in the thing for 20 years, and I did this and I did that. Not that that's not important. That has its place, but in the experience section where you can break that stuff out. But let your about section be the who you are, what you do, and how you help.
Awesome.
And there is somebody, I just want you to, because I'm looking at the comments.
Yes.
Brian Williams just commented and said, great content here.
Yeah, Brian Williams actually teaches on LinkedIn also.
Oh,
So
cool.
thanks for being on, Brian. And
Hi, Brian.
yeah, you probably should meet Brian. So
Yes,
I'll
I
make
should.
that connection.
So,
Um,
so to play out the story piece, that's kind of like the thing that I'm known for when I work with my clients is, so I was a journalist and I was in PR for 25 years. And so I was all about helping people tell a story and, and an authentic one, not packaging and creating a story, but pulling out that piece of you that's authentic and tying it in to the professional. So one of the things I share with people, I have like 12 sort of ideas that can jog your thinking into, oh, I could share a nugget of, this story. So one of the ones I use for the military is the easiest one is, why did you join the military? And when you think about that story, some people wanted to join the military when they were 10 because their mom or dad were in the military and that's what they wanted to do. Or they got out of high school, tried school, realized that wasn't for them. And then they thought, you know what? I think the military might be a perfect path for me. And so when you share a nugget, and I literally mean like a paragraph, maybe 4 or 5 sentences, it's not like your whole thing, but it's sort of like to hook the attention in, because when someone first arrives on your LinkedIn profile, they only see the first 2 or 3 lines of your about section, and then it says show more. And you want to like hook them in that first sentence so they'll click that show more link and open it up so they can learn more about who you are, what you do, and how you can help.
awesome. So I have one last question because we could talk
I know
forever
I
on
probably
this.
went on too long. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, you're fine. It's great
I get
information.
excited about it.
Yeah, well, and I get excited listening to you about it. So that's why I wanted to have you on. But I have one question, and it goes back to me getting out of the service. And I may be like a lot of other people out there, and maybe I'm just a unique unicorn. But when I got out of the service, even before I got out, I heard so many people say, I'm not going back to be a government contractor. You won't see me in here. I'm in Colorado Springs and building 1 or building 2. I'm never coming back to do this again. And they want to completely distance themselves from contract world and try to enter true civilian. And so I know for me, when I got out, I didn't want my LinkedIn to say anything about the military, because when I first got out, I had that. And all I had was recruiters and government contractors and that reaching out to me. But we want you to work for us. And I was doing something different. I had already started a business on the side.
Mhm.
And so I'm talking to those people that maybe had a side gig going on while they were in the service and have gotten out. And now they have, per se, a different life.
Well,
They
so that
serve
actually comes
differently.
back to the keywords I talked about, Brenda, because if you're using, so like when I first worked with a veteran, before I've worked with them one-on-one, and I go into their skills, all in their skills things like Department of Defense, government, this, military, weapons, command. And because all of those are in there, that means when somebody's doing a search, their profile is going to pop up. So I say to them, if you're switching over, take out weapons, take out command, take out all the givens, take out even Microsoft Office. Everybody should know that by now. And take those skills and turn them into the words that describe the talent that you have. It's
Right.
not hard to figure out what that is. Leadership, teamwork, operations, systems, technology, even drone pilots. I've helped them figure out how to because I've worked with, especially with the special operations community. There's a lot of drone pilots out
Right.
there, and they want to stay in that community. But the technology side is really huge. So get rid of some of that military speak. And again, I'm saying that with all due respect, because
Right.
the goal here is that you want the right people to find you for what you want to do. Now,
Right.
if you want to be working for DOD and you want a government contracting job, then make sure that those words are in there.
Right.
But you've got to really kind of think outside the box on this. We do have a question. Do you want me to?
Okay. Yeah.
So Debbie Morrow, I'm not sure
Yep.
if I'm saying that. It says, Kate, do you think people who offer more than one business should have a profile for each that is specific to that business? Excellent question. First of all, you should have a personal profile page. And then if you want to have a business page on LinkedIn, you have to have a personal profile page in order to have a business page. Now you can only have, you would only want to have one business page, even if you have 3 or 4 different types of things that you offer. And here's how you can do that. This is feel free to email me offline, Debbie. You can either connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message, or you can email me at kate@standingoutonline.com. And I can answer in more in depth. But, and I just lost my train of thought. Just went poof because I gave
multiple businesses in
Thank
one
you.
page.
So on a LinkedIn company page, you can have the main page. So think of like the main entity of your business. If there are 2 or 3 sort of offshoots of that, you can create within that company page, you can create what are called showcase pages, which are like mini pages off the main company page, almost like second level navigation, like a website. And then you could have each one of those pages be a standalone for that component of that business. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. And I'm like, oh my God, we need a whole training session on this. I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, you can. And also remember too, that if you have a personal profile page, this is something that people don't realize. Sometimes people use their personal profile page for their business, which they can and should, especially if you are your brand, is you should only have one name up there. So it should be your first last name of your profile. And then your profile photo it should be just you in the photo. LinkedIn can actually, if there are 2 people in a profile picture, LinkedIn can suspend your account. So it should just be the one. And then some people will put their logo on their personal profile page, and that goes against LinkedIn's user agreement. But on your LinkedIn company page, the profile photo has to be the logo and not your profile photo. But that doesn't mean, like, if you are part of your, if you are your brand, your LinkedIn company page banner could certainly have a picture of you in the field, on site, making a presentation, something like that. And so hopefully those little tips help, because LinkedIn will catch you up on those.
Awesome. Well, I know we could go on forever and ever, and I might just have to have you back another time.
Anytime, Brenda, I'm happy to help.
And bring you on, because you provide so much value to the military, especially those transitioning out. And even if you've been out for 4 or 5 years and you're still not quite where you want to be, you haven't figured out the whole LinkedIn and interviewing, or where, what it is that you want to do when you grow up, then Kate might be a good resource to reach out to and have a discussion with her, to see how she might be able to help you to think through that process, because I know I've been there.
It's not easy.
It's not easy at all when you transition and you go from, even if you're going into corporate, you're going from a very structured environment to, even corporate is not super structured. It's going to be somewhat structured. And if you do, like I did, and own your own business, it can be super structured, but you have to put all that structure in place. And people that are getting out have all the skills to do that. We just have to go back to those skills and remember it, not even remember them, but realize that they are skills. Because I think so many times the military doesn't even realize the skills that they have that sets themselves apart from their competition when they're going out to look for a job or start a new career or start their own company. Because you and I were talking beforehand about leadership superpower, and that the people in the military have that. And I never even thought about that until you said that.
And the loyalty one. What I was saying, that is like, I will tell employers, I'm like, you couldn't get anybody more loyal and reliable. And those are technically soft skills, but they're really important. And I think there's something to be really coveted in this day and age, especially right now with the whole COVID-19. I think that employers are going to be looking at people very differently going forward for hiring. I think that the whole person is going to be taken into account much more than maybe ever before.
Awesome.
Finally.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Do you have one parting word of wisdom for those that might be watching? And I didn't ask you ahead of time, but do you have a special or anything you want to offer the viewers that are watching today?
I don't have a special. However, if you want to email me, I can put you on my mailing list. I am not one of those people that sends out emails all the time. I mean, I like maybe once every other month or something like that. But when I get really good stuff, I put it out there. Certainly follow me on LinkedIn because I keep people posted about what's changing on LinkedIn all the time, because just like any platform, there's constant changes. But also, if you just ever have a question and you want me to put my eyes on your LinkedIn profile, please don't hesitate to email me or message me on LinkedIn. And if you do look me up on LinkedIn, just so you know, my name is Kate Paine and the last name is Paine. It's a different spelling. So look me up there, and I'm always happy to hop on a quick Zoom call or throw my eyes on your LinkedIn profile. I do it all the time. So I don't have
Awesome.
I'm actually in the middle of, I'm 50% through creating my very first e-course.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's going to be coming out. It's not going to be specific to veterans, but it's still basically how to make your LinkedIn profile sing. And it's a self-guided with video. So I'm in the process of that. So then I'll be sending something out, and it's a way to be able to use my methodology, but not necessarily have to work with me for a period of time one-on-one.
Awesome. So stay tuned
So
for
stay
that.
tuned, as they say. Yeah.
So maybe when the course is released is when we'll have you come on again to
Yes.
say
And
it's
I would
now
absolutely
available.
sell my course at a special for veterans. Absolutely. No, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and taking the time out, especially on Memorial Day on a
Thank
holiday,
you.
to be with me on the show this morning. For those of you who are watching again, if you are a veteran and own your own business, or you are the spouse of a veteran, or maybe you're a nonprofit or you volunteer and help veterans, I would love to have a conversation with you and see if you're a good fit for my Military Mondays so that we could get the word out about you and your business or the nonprofit or your volunteering, whatever it is that you do to help our veteran and military community. So if you want to stay connected to me, hopefully you want to stay connected to me and you've found value in this, please, if you've found value in this, share it with your network so that we get the word out to more people. And you can stay connected with me at militarymondays.info. So militarymondays.info. Give me your information and then I can keep you abreast of past shows and upcoming shows. And I can reach out to you and we can build a relationship. So with that, thanks again, Kate. And
Thank you
I
for
will see
having me.
you. Yeah. And I'll see you next Monday on Military Mondays. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.